Trump's second-term foreign policy, a neutral analysis of America's global strategy. Welcome to Global Dynamics Hubs. In today's video, we take an in-depth look at the foreign policy of the Trump administration during its second term. We will revisit the campaign promises, explore key diplomatic priorities, and examine U.S. relations with Canada, Mexico, the European Union, China, Japan, Panama, and Greenland. This analysis remains neutral, focusing purely on policies and their implications. Let's dive in. Before the election, Donald Trump campaigned on continuing his America First foreign policy, which sought to reshape global relationships in favor of U.S. economic and security interests. Several key promises were made. First, renegotiating trade deals to ensure American industries receive better terms. Second, strengthening national security, particularly through border control and reassessing U.S. military commitments abroad. Third, reducing reliance on foreign supply chains to encourage domestic manufacturing. And fourth, reevaluating U.S. commitments to alliances to ensure every agreement provided direct benefits to the American people. These commitments formed the foundation for the administration's second-term foreign policy. During the second term, the administration focused on four main pillars: fair trade agreements, prioritizing U.S. economic interests, and enforcing trade balance with major partners. Allied burden sharing, ensuring NATO and other allies contributed more to defense spending. Strengthening border security to prevent illegal immigration and reinforce agreements with neighboring countries. And strategic expansion, seeking opportunities in Latin America, the Arctic, and Asia to enhance U.S. influence in emerging global markets. With these priorities in mind, let's examine how they shaped relationships with key nations. Canada remained a key economic and military ally, though trade tensions occasionally surfaced. Initially, there were discussions about tariffs on Canadian imports, but they were ultimately put on hold following diplomatic negotiations. Instead, U.S.-Canada relations focused on energy trade cooperation, particularly in oil and gas exports, ensuring that American industries remain competitive while maintaining stable trade relations. Additionally, cross-border security measures were strengthened, with new agreements aimed at preventing drug trafficking and enhancing surveillance. While diplomatic ties remained strong, the administration ensured that trade and security arrangements were mutually beneficial. Mexico was another major focal point of U.S. foreign policy, particularly concerning border security and economic relations. Although a 25% tariff on Mexican imports was initially considered as leverage for immigration control, these measures were ultimately put on hold in favor of continued negotiations under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. Instead of tariffs, the administration focused on border security enhancements, investing in advanced surveillance technology and cross-border law enforcement cooperation to curb illegal immigration and drug trafficking. Mexico also increased efforts to combat cartel activity and secure trade routes, reinforcing a cooperative but firm diplomatic approach between the two nations. The administration's policy toward the European Union emphasized burden sharing and fair trade agreements. The U.S. urged NATO allies to raise their defense spending to at least 5% of GDP, ensuring that military costs were more evenly distributed. Trade relations also remained a key topic, with the U.S. pushing for reduced tariffs and fairer agreements, seeking to correct long-standing trade imbalances. While diplomatic ties remained stable, the administration's approach toward Europe reflected a more transactional engagement, ensuring that every trade deal or security commitment delivered direct benefits to the U.S. economy and national defense. In Asia, the administration maintained a firm stance against China while strengthening alliances with Japan. As part of efforts to counter China's economic and technological influence, the U.S. revoked China's most favored nation trade status, implementing new tariffs and technology restrictions aimed at curbing intellectual property theft and limiting Chinese access to U.S. innovations. Additionally, the administration encouraged American companies to shift supply chains away from China, reducing reliance on foreign manufacturing. Meanwhile, Japan remained a key ally, with the U.S. pushing for increased Japanese defense contributions while ensuring fair trade relations and stronger security cooperation. The administration's policy in Asia reflected a dual approach: economic and military competition with China, and deepened alliances with Japan and other regional partners. Beyond traditional diplomatic engagements, the administration sought to expand U.S. influence in two strategic regions: Panama and Greenland. The Panama Canal remained a critical trade artery, and discussions emerged on asserting greater U.S. oversight to counter growing Chinese investments in Latin America. Meanwhile, Greenland, known for its natural resources and Arctic geopolitical significance, was a renewed focal point. While earlier talks of purchasing Greenland were dismissed, the administration focused on increasing U.S. diplomatic ties and economic influence, ensuring that Greenland remained under Western strategic control rather than becoming a target for Russian or Chinese expansion. A key diplomatic initiative in the second term was Foreign Secretary Marco Rubio's Latin America tour, aimed at strengthening U.S. influence in the region. Rubio's trip included economic discussions, security cooperation, and diplomatic engagements with regional leaders. The administration sought to counter China's growing presence in Latin America by increasing U.S. investment in infrastructure and trade agreements. Additionally, the tour focused on anti-corruption initiatives, encouraging greater transparency and governance reforms in nations receiving U.S. aid. Regional security was also a central topic, with discussions centered on countering drug cartels, enhancing border security, and preventing authoritarian expansion in countries aligned with hostile powers. Rubio's tour underscored the administration's long-term vision for securing economic and political influence in the Western Hemisphere. In summary, the Trump administration's second-term foreign policy was a continuation of the America First agenda, prioritizing fair trade, stronger alliances, border security, and strategic expansion. Tariffs on Canada and Mexico were put on hold, but negotiations remained ongoing. NATO and European allies were pushed to contribute more toward defense spending. China faced economic pushback, while Japan remained a trusted ally. Latin America received increased U.S. diplomatic attention, as seen in Marco Rubio's tour. Meanwhile, the U.S. reinforced its strategic presence in Panama and Greenland, ensuring long-term geopolitical advantages. Whether one agrees or disagrees with these policies, they reflect a significant shift in America's global engagement strategy. Thank you for watching Global Dynamics Hubs. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. What do you think was the most significant foreign policy move of Trump's second term? Let us know, and stay tuned for more global policy breakdowns.